Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. This time, we're going exploring how the systems we design can shape the value they create, often in ways that we just don't expect.
Yeah.
Our guide for this deep dive is an essay from Dennis Hambukers.
Okay.
He's a design thinker, and he argues that the relationship between design and value is a lot more intricate than just a simple cause and effect.
Right.
And to help us all unpack the why behind this, we've got our expert here with us today.
It's really exciting to be back.
Yeah. So, what is it about Hambukers' essay that makes it so interesting?
Well, I think the thing that I really love is how he just challenges our assumptions about design, We often approach design with a very intentional mindset.
Okay.
We want to create something very specific with a predetermined value.
Right.
But the real magic happens when the system that we create starts to interact with the world around it.
He actually has this great line in there.
Oh, yeah.
He says, we shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. It's like this two-way street.
Yeah.
So we're influencing what we create,
Right.
but then it's also kind of bouncing back and influencing us.
Exactly. It's like this fascinating dance between intention and emergence. And to really grasp this idea, I think let's just dive into an example that I think you're probably pretty familiar with, right? Instagram.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
But how's Instagram a system? It's just an app, right?
Well, that's where it gets interesting because we think of Instagram as this photo-sharing giant.
Right.
But, it actually began life as a check-in app.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine instead of these perfectly curated feeds that you see now, right?
Yeah.
You were just telling all of your friends what bar you were at or...
Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah.
So how did it become what it is today then?
Well, the system surrounding Instagram, right? So you've got the competition, user behavior, the whole digital landscape.
Right.
It kind of nudged Instagram in a new direction.
Okay.
Another check-in app, Foursquare, was gaining traction. So Instagram kind of had to pivot to photo sharing, and that's when things really took off.
So the value of Instagram morphed organically
Yeah.
because of how people were using it.
Yeah.
It wasn't some grand plan. It just kind of emerged.
Exactly. And it evolved from this simple photo sharing to personal branding, influencer marketing,
Wow.
even shaping societal beauty standards and mental well-being.
Wow, yeah.
And none of that was part of the original blueprint.
Yeah.
It emerged from the interplay between the users and the platform.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It shows how the true value of what we design can be completely different
Yeah.
from what we initially intend.
Yeah. And it really highlights why this emergent value is so crucial. It's not something that we can just force or predict. It arises from this dynamic interaction between our creation and the larger system that it's a part of.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this goes beyond just designing apps.
Yeah.
So how does this relate to, say, the companies we work for?
Ooh, that's where things get really fascinating. Okay. Hambukers argues that companies themselves are systems. Just like these digital platforms, they're shaped by these internal forces.
Yeah.
Biases, office politics, power dynamics.
So you're saying those internal dynamics become part of the system that's influencing what a company puts out into the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hambukers even uses this provocative phrase.
Yeah.
He says that companies get the systems that they deserve. So their internal workings, often invisible to the outside world, shape their products, their services, their culture.
Wow.
And it's not always pretty, right?
Yeah.
Think about some of the companies that we know that are known for toxic workplaces.
Right.
The internal dysfunction often manifests in their external offerings.
That's a really thought-provoking idea.
Yeah.
It's not just about having a great product. It's about the whole ecosystem that surrounds it.
Yeah.
Even within the company itself.
Totally.
So how do we actually work with these systems? Do we just surrender to the chaos?
Not at all. Hambukers actually stresses that true value isn't predetermined,
Okay.
but rather discovered through observation and interaction.
Okay.
So it's about paying attention to how users are engaging with what we create, how they're adapting it to their needs, and even how they're shaping it in ways that we never anticipated.
So it's more than just numbers on a screen, right?
Absolutely. It's about developing this deep understanding of the business itself,
Okay.
its culture, its goals, its challenges, and then it's about poking the system, as Hambukers puts it.
That phrase caught my attention. What does he mean by poking the system?
Well, it's about experimenting, being curious, and seeing how the system reacts.
Okay.
Trying new features, testing new marketing approaches, even proposing new internal processes.
Mm.
These are all ways to kind of poke the system and see what happens.
Mm.
It's about being an active participant and not just a passive observer.
I can definitely relate to that. I've had projects that completely change direction
Yeah.
based on unexpected feedback or outcomes, and they ended up way better because of it.
Right.
So embracing this systems thinking is all about being adaptable, being open to change,
Yeah.
and understanding that the journey is just as important as the destination.
You've got it. Han Buchers describes product design as this journey of discovery and emphasizes the importance of flexibility and being open to those unexpected outcomes.
It's like we're not just building products or systems.
Yeah.
We're kind of exploring this constantly evolving landscape.
Hmm.
And we need to be ready to adapt to the terrain.
Exactly. And that requires a certain mindset, a willingness to experiment, to learn, and to adapt along the way.
Yeah.
We need to be comfortable not having all the answers up front, and instead be open to the surprises that emerge as we interact with the system.
Yeah.
And it's about embracing that journey and recognizing that the true value
Yeah.
might reveal itself in unexpected ways.
I love that analogy of exploring a landscape. It highlights how unpredictable this process can be.
Yeah.
But if we zoom out even further,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about the specific product or company, right? It's about understanding this bigger picture, the entire ecosystem that we're operating within.
You're hitting on a crucial point there. This systems thinking, it applies to so much more than just our work projects, right?
Right.
It can be applied to our relationships, communities, even our own personal growth.
So it's like a whole new lens through which to view the world.
Precisely. And with this lens, we can actually see how interconnected everything really is. And it highlights how our actions have these ripple effects, right? Impacting more than just our immediate surroundings.
Yeah, that makes me think about the environmental crisis we're in.
Oh, yeah.
It's a stark example of how those individual actions can have these unforeseen consequences that can affect the entire planet.
It's a powerful illustration of how interconnected these systems can be. And it underscores the need for a more holistic, sustainable approach. One that takes into account the well-being of all stakeholders, not just our immediate interests.
So it's not just about being aware of the system. It's about taking responsibility for our role within it.
Absolutely. And that sense of responsibility, it can be a real driving force for positive change.
Right.
It empowers us to think beyond just these short-term gains and consider the long-term impact of our actions.
It's like we're not just designing products or systems.
Right.
They're designing the future. That's a lot of responsibility.
It is. But it's also incredibly empowering,
Yeah.
We have the ability to shape our reality and create a world that's more just, equitable, sustainable for everyone.
This deep dive has been a real mind shift for me. It's not just about completing tasks or hitting deadlines anymore.
Yeah.
It's about creating something meaningful, something that contributes to a better future.
That shift in perspective is really at the heart of what Han Buchers is trying to convey.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of something larger than ourselves.
And that our actions have the power to make a real difference.
So how can we practically apply this systems thinking? It all sounds very abstract and a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin?
Well, I think a great place to start is by simply becoming more aware of the systems that we're already a part of. Pay attention to the dynamics at play, the forces that shape decisions,
Right.
and the relationships between different elements.
Okay.
It's like becoming an anthropologist within your own organization.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So it's about observation, careful analysis, even becoming aware of our own biases and assumptions.
Exactly. We're all part of the system, which means we're all influencing it in some way.
Right.
And that self-awareness is key to understanding how we can create positive change.
I'm starting to see how this systems thinking kind of moves us beyond that simple cause and effect and helps us to embrace the complexity of the world around us.
And that shift can be incredibly empowering.
Because it allows us to really see the interconnectedness of things.
Right.
And recognize those ripple effects of our actions.
It's like we're moving from this linear mindset to a more holistic one.
Exactly.
We're not just focusing on individual parts, but on the whole system and how everything interacts.
Precisely. And that brings us back to a key concept from Hambucher's essay.
Okay.
Embracing that emergent nature of value.
Right.
Yeah, remember the Instagram example?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How it evolved from that check-in app to a social media powerhouse.
Exactly. That transformation.
Yeah.
It wasn't part of the original plan. It emerged organically from how users were interacting with the platform, adapting it to their needs and desires.
So we need to be open to those unexpected outcomes.
Yeah.
To the possibility that the value we create might manifest in ways that we never anticipated.
That's a crucial insight.
Yeah.
And it requires a certain level of trust, a willingness to let go of control and allow the system to evolve in its own way, which I'll admit can be easier said than done.
Oh, I hear that.
Yeah.
You know, we're so often conditioned to plan everything meticulously.
Right.
Have a roadmap and stick to it. Letting go can feel risky.
You're right, it can feel risky, but Hambucher's argues that this rigid approach can actually stifle innovation and limit the potential for true value creation.
So it's about finding that balance between intention and emergence.
Yeah.
We need to have a clear vision, but also be flexible enough to adapt as we go.
You nailed it. And that flexibility, it comes from staying attuned to the system, paying close attention to the feedback that we receive, and being open to those subtle cues that might guide us in unexpected directions.
It's like tending a garden. You know, we have this vision for what we want to grow.
Yeah.
But we also need to respond to the weather, the soil conditions, the needs of the plants themselves.
Yeah.
It's this constant process of observation, adaptation, and nurturing.
That's a beautiful analogy. And it highlights the importance of being present, paying attention, and being willing to learn from both our successes and our failures.
Because even our failures can teach us something valuable about the system.
Right.
They can help us refine our understanding and make more informed decisions in the future.
Absolutely. Every interaction, every experiment, every unexpected outcome, it provides this valuable data, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of this continuous process of learning, adapting, and refining our approach.
This makes me think about all the different systems that we're a part of. Not just in our work, but in our lives as well.
Yeah.
You know, our relationships, our families, our communities, they're all systems with their own unique dynamics and patterns of behavior.
And the systems thinking approach can be applied to all of them.
Right.
It's a powerful tool for understanding the complexity of our lives, navigating challenges, and creating these more fulfilling and meaningful experiences.
You know what? This conversation has been such a valuable deep dive for me.
Oh, good.
I'm already starting to see the world through this new lens. Yeah, it really is a fascinating way to look at things. And it feels like we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah.
There's so much more to explore with this whole idea of systems thinking.
Absolutely. We could talk about this for hours.
I bet.
But you know, one thing that Hambucher's touches on, I think is particularly relevant for our listeners, is the importance of fostering a culture that supports this way of thinking.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
What does that kind of culture look like in practice?
Well, it's about creating an environment where people feel safe to experiment, share their ideas, and challenge assumptions.
Right.
Even those long-held beliefs that might be holding the company back.
Yeah.
It's about embracing feedback, both the positive and the negative, as a valuable source of information.
Right.
And it's about viewing mistakes not as failures, but as opportunities for learning and growth.
So it's not just about individual mindset.
Right.
It's about the organizational structure itself supporting this way of thinking and working.
Exactly. Imagine a company where people are actually encouraged to poke the system, where leadership actively seeks out these diverse perspectives, and where, you know, celebrating learning from failure is baked into the company culture.
Wow.
That's where real innovation thrives.
That makes me think about the role of leadership then in fostering this kind of culture.
Yeah.
It's not just about setting goals and delegating tasks, right?
Right.
It's about creating that space where people feel empowered to think differently, contribute their unique perspectives.
You're spot on. Leaders have this tremendous impact on shaping the culture of an organization. And if they embrace this systems thinking approach, it can have this ripple effect throughout the entire company.
It's like they set the tone for how people interact, how decisions are made, ultimately how value is created within that system.
And to do that, effectively. Leaders need to be aware of their own biases, their assumptions, and their own role within the system.
Right.
They're not just managing people. They're managing this complex and dynamic system that requires a whole different way of thinking and operating.
This is all starting to click for me now.
Okay, good.
It's not just about the tools and techniques.
Right.
It's about the mindset, the culture, the leadership that supports this way of working.
You got it. And when those elements come together,
Yeah.
that's when the magic really happens.
Okay, I have to ask again. What does he mean by magic? It sounds a bit, I don't know, out there for a business context.
Well, I think what he's referring to is those moments of serendipity, those unexpected breakthroughs that happen when we're open to new possibilities.
Yeah.
And willing to let go of our preconceived notions.
Right.
It's about trusting the process, even when it feels a little messy or unpredictable.
So it's about creating the conditions for those aha moments to occur.
Exactly. It's about fostering this culture of curiosity, experimentation, and collaboration, where people feel empowered to challenge the status quo and explore these new ways of doing things.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening for me. I'm already starting to see how I can apply these ideas to my own work and to my life in general.
That's what's so exciting about systems thinking. It's not just this theoretical framework.
Right.
It's a practical tool that we can all use to make a real difference in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dennis Hambucher's essay, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I'd say the biggest takeaway is this. The systems that we create, whether it's an app, a company, even a community garden, they kind of have a life of their own, right?
Yeah.
They're constantly evolving, adapting, responding to the forces around them. And our role as designers, leaders, participants in these systems is to understand those dynamics, embrace the unexpected, and work with the system to create something truly valuable and sustainable.
It's about recognizing that we're not just creating things, we're cultivating them.
Yeah.
We're tending to this garden that has the potential to grow in ways we never even imagined.
Beautifully put. And to our listeners, we encourage you to dive deeper into Dennis Hambucher's work if this has piqued your interest.
Yeah.
He's a true thought leader in this space, and his insights can be incredibly powerful.
So as you go about your day-to-day, we'll leave you with this. What systems are you a part of? How can you apply this systems thinking lens to your work, your relationships, even your hobbies, where hidden value might be waiting to be discovered?
Remember, even those small changes can create ripple effects. So start by being curious, asking questions, look for those unexpected connections.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you find.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
We hope it sparked your imagination and empowered you to create positive change.
Wow.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep creating an